The meeting will be called to order. It is now 6:30. Welcome to all of those of you in the audience. And I ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Jay. Here. Kibler. Maxwell.
Here.
McGuire. Michaels. Here. Mitchell. Quisenberry. Here. Rosales.
Present.
Schrader. Here. Schwartz. Here. Shore.
Present.
Weibel. Here. Alex. Here. Anderson. Berkson. Here. Carter. Coert. Esri.
Here.
Harper.
Here.
Harrison.
Here.
Hartkey.
Here.
Petrie.
Present. And will the clerk note that Mr. Mitchell is here, Mr. McGuire is now in his seat, and Ms. Coward has arrived. Thank you very much. This evening, due to the incident in Charlotte, South Carolina, instead of a reading or a prayer, I'm asking for a moment of silence in respect to what has happened in that city. The Pledge of Allegiance now, please, and thank you, everyone. Will the clerk read the notice of the meeting, please?
Notice is hereby given that a regular meeting of the County Board, Champaign County, Illinois, will convene on June 18th, 2015 at 6:30 p.m. in the Lyle Childs Meeting Room, Brookins Administrative Center, 1776 East Washington Street, Urbana, Illinois, in said county for the purpose of allowing and ordering payments of claims against the county, receiving and acting upon reports of committees, and such other matters as may be brought before said meeting, which said meeting shall continue in session from day to date until the completion of said business.
Thank you very much. And for the record, I will read the dates and times of our next regular meetings. Oh, I'm sorry. I always do this. A motion to approve the agenda. Mr. Esri, is there a second? I'm sorry, Ms. Berkson has seconded. Is there any discussion on the approval of the agenda? Yes, Mr. Harkey.
Yes, I would like to request to pull E16 and 17 off of the consent agenda at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Harkey. Are there any other comments? All right, oh, yes, Mr. Alex.
I would like to move to suspend the rules to allow the items which are coming directly to the board and are listed under new business to be considered at the appropriate point in the agenda.
All right, a second. Thank you, Mr. Weibel. Is there any discussion on that motion? All right. Well, that probably wasn't in proper order. All those in favor of suspending the rules signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, now moving to the approval of the agenda. All those in favor of this evening's agenda as changed by Mr. Harkey indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. All right, thank you very much. Now, to the schedule of our meetings in July. Different than you see listed on the packet, there will not be a facilities meeting in July, so none of the Committees will be meeting. That means no meeting for facilities, none for environmental and land use, and none for highway, and also none for the committee of the whole. All the county business will be taken care of at the county board meeting, which is on the 23rd of July at the regular time of 6:30 here in the Shields Room. Moving to public participation, so far I have 5 slips. If other people are planning to speak, please fill out a slip and get it up to me. For those who are new to coming to the county board, I do want to review our public participation rules. We have 5 minutes for each person speaking, and you will note up on the clock that there is a countdown clock, and I will be keeping people to the 5 minutes by thanking you for speaking if you've hit the 5-minute clock. The total amount of time allowed for speaking is 60 minutes at each meeting. The first person is Vicki Niswander. And as you come up to that desk, be sure to turn the mic on. You will see a red light. Yes.
My name is Vicki Niswander. I live at 104 Wood Creek Court in Mahomet. I was one of the candidates for the open positions on the Champaign County Developmental Disabilities Board. My interest in this position comes solely from 2 experiences. I have an adult daughter with disabilities for whom I have advocated for all of her 32 years. Professionally, I have worked with individuals with disabilities, families, providers, and community members all over the state of Illinois for more than 20 years with the Illinois State Board of Education and currently with a project funded through the Division of Developmental Disabilities. My primary focus for all of those years has been community inclusion for people with disabilities so that people have opportunities to live the lives that are connected to family and friends and to give back through work, volunteering, or engaging in civic activities with the supports necessary to aid their success. Champaign County is not unlike most other counties in Illinois in that there are many people who receive no services at all, some people taking what they can get, and a few others trying new and creative options to build quality lives. The Developmental Disabilities Board has held great promise for citizens with disabilities for the last 10 years, but has a long road with many obstacles ahead to make that happen. My hope as a potential board member was to use my knowledge and experience to encourage movement toward person-centered, progressive, and effective services for people with developmental disabilities. I will continue that work, with or without that appointment, because it's the most important thing I can do for my own daughter and for others with developmental disabilities who want better options for their own lives. I thank Dr. Petrie and Mr. Maxwell for spending considerable time explaining to me the basis for their decision. Knowledge of the budget seemed to be the most important factor, and I agree that budgets are certainly important, but they can be grasped fairly quickly. I encourage you as a board to think more about who will best serve the citizens with intellectual and developmental disabilities in Champaign County when making these appointments that have a critical impact on future services. Thank you for your time, and I would like to provide a copy of my input for the meeting minutes. Who would I provide those to? Okay.
Thank you very much, Ms. Niswander. The next speaker is Mr. Tracy. Thank you, Vicki.
Good evening. My name is Peter Tracy, and I am the Executive Director of the Champaign County Mental Health Board and the Developmental Disabilities Board. I have served in these positions since 2000. Previously, I was the Medicaid Mental Health Services Administrator for the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services. That was a statewide position, serving under Director Sue Suter, and Director Jess McDonald. I am here tonight to ask you to reconsider the Champaign County Mental Health Board budget transfer, which was rejected by the County Board Committee of the Whole on June 9th, 2015. In my 15 years as the with the Mental Health Board and the Developmental Disabilities Board, I have worked productively with 5 county board chairs. These include Steve Mosier, Patricia Avery, Barbara Wysocki, Pius Weibel, and Al Kurtz. Working together, we have been able to address many difficult challenges facing individuals with mental health and substance use disorders, as well as people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Unfortunately, under the leadership of the current county board chair, this spirit of teamwork, collaboration, and partnership has, in my opinion, evaporated. The budget transfer. On June 9th, the Champaign County Board Committee of the Whole, by a roll call vote of 10 to 9, rejected our request to move money from the contribution and grants line to the personnel lines in order to pay salaries and benefits to support the transition of 2 people from grant to permanent employee status. These 2 positions were authorized by the Mental Health Board in collaboration with the Federal Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, which is called SAMHSA, the Illinois Department of Human Services, and were intended to sustain key components of the Access Initiative to energize the Champaign County Community Coalition. The coalition, which represents a partnership between schools, local governments, law enforcement, education, park districts, community organizations, and individuals, is working to address the problem of youth violence in our communities and racial disparities reflected by disproportionate involvement of youth of color in the juvenile justice system, school suspensions and expulsions, and the child welfare system. Many of these youth have experienced have been exposed and experienced a cycle of trauma and violence, which has resulted in adverse impact on their functioning at home, in school, and in the community. Tracy Parsons, one of the positions that was included, is a man of extraordinary skills and in this area and value to our community. He has demonstrated a unique ability to bridge between the white and African American communities. He and his team at Access Initiative are nationally recognized for their work, which has been working to address the serious problems we have with youth mental health. His leadership is clearly apparent by building of partnerships developed through the Champaign County Community Coalition. And by the way, they did speak to you guys to this board in April of this year, and there's a number of members of the coalition that are here tonight. Chandra Somerville is a woman who, over the term of the SAMHSA Children's Initiative grant, has become a national leader, serving on the national board of the Federation of Families. Chandra is also our cultural and linguistic competence coordinator and has had a significant role in our interest to infuse cultural and linguistic competence. A significant number of Champaign County Coalition members came to meet with you in April and did a special presentation. Moreover, this sustainability plan was unanimously supported by the Mental Health Board and the DHS grant manager, whose letter was included if you look at the original budget transfer. In my opinion, the rejection of the budget transfer undercuts the work of the coalition and sends a very negative message to our partners in the coalition. Despite the coalition's support, the Champaign County Board chose to reject the budget transfer. In my 15 years as executive director of the Mental Health Board, not once that I can remember has a mental health board budget transfer been rejected by the county board. Why now? I ask, does this rejection of the budget transfer align with the county board's values as stated in your strategic plan? And I'm talking about diversity, striving for a workforce reflective of the community, intergovernment communication, and intergovernmental communication. I ask that you do the right thing and reconsider the budget transfer and support our 2016 budget, which we will be presenting later this year, and which will also include these 2 positions.
Mr. Tracy, your 5 minutes is up. Thank you very much. The next speaker is Mr. Smith.
I am Michael Smith. I live at 810 Dodge Drive, Champaign. I am a parent of a disabled child and a current member of the Champaign Disabilities Board. My reason for being on the board goes back many years. I became a member in its inception. For some of you, you may not remember exactly how we came to be. But in 2003, 2004, a large number of people involved with disabilities toured this county and talked to every service club and any organization that would talk to us and any individual that would talk to us, attempting to get a referendum passed that would create the Champaign Disabilities Board. We were lucky, it passed. And in November of 2004, we became a board. Our first year of, I'll say, applications and appropriations was again in that next budgeting cycle. Since then, we have approved over $30 million to be applied to the disabled citizens of Champaign County. I understand that there's a zillion buzzwords that run around and all kinds of new things that happen, and we support every single thing that will in any way improve or enhance the lives of disabled citizens of Champaign County. But those things don't come by just snapping your fingers. You've got to watch the budget, you've got to watch the numbers, you've got to pay attention to what's going on, you've got to see what's happening every day, every month, all the time. I believe we've done that. Joyce and I were part of the three that was the initial board. Later, our board became 5. We've been very lucky. We've had people who came on our board who agreed with the initial concept of who we were and what we were about. We were about serving the citizens. We were not about any agency or anyone else. We simply wanted to make sure that every disabled citizen and their family in Champaign County had a voice and could get services. Sometimes those services were really significant, and sometimes those services were minor, but they were there. That $30 million, and I don't know the exact number, but it has gone to families, it has gone to individual job placements, it has gone to a number of different things. And yes, every day that passes, there are more and different concepts and ideas that come about and how we might better spend our money. But above all, we have a fiduciary responsibility. The first one is to the citizens of Champaign County who pay the taxes, because we approve where those taxes go. And the second is we have a responsibility to know that those dollars are being spent in the most appropriate way, that management of those dollars is appropriate. We share administrative costs with the Mental Health Board with an agreement. And in that agreement, I don't think, I'd have to look, but we have never exceeded 9% as an overhead cost to those dollars that are provided by the county, by the citizens. So the tax dollars are being used for what they were meant to be. I am a certified public accountant, and I have made sure that I used my knowledge the best way I knew how to monitor what we do with our budgets, what we do with our costs, what we do with the expenses that we incur. As a group, you can decide who you want to represent the citizens, and I'll be happy. I believe that I've given 5 years, 10 years, it turns out now, in an appropriate way, and I believe that I have served well. And if it turns out that you'd like to have someone else do there, and someone who maybe it doesn't ask as many questions, somebody who doesn't challenge our staff as they make recommendations, then that'll be what you need to do. But I want you to know that if you determine that I will continue to watch the budget, I will continue to watch how we spend, and I will continue to ask questions because they're necessary. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Mr. Stabler?
I have a handout. I'm going to over here and then one half over here. push this guy.
No.
Turn it off? All
There
right, now
you
it's
go.
on. Hi, my name is Albert Stabler. I live in Urbana. I'm here representing the group Build Programs Not Jails, or BPNJ. I emailed this week with Champaign County Administrator Deb Busey, and she told me, quote, "The county's debt service paid out of the public safety sales tax and a number of bond issues that support the debt for the courthouse addition, and juvenile detention center will drop by approximately $1 million in fiscal year 2018, unquote. This means that in 2018, Champaign County can begin seriously investing in services that will help to reduce its incarcerated population. My BPNJ colleague Dottie Vera-Weiss was here before the board last month with a presentation on progress to date regarding incarceration reduction recommendations made in 2013 by the Community Justice Task Force, or CJTF. The report is online. Tonight I want to note that the CJTF report suggested initially applying 30% of public safety sales tax revenue towards its recommendations. This $1 million would be an important step toward that goal, as the total public safety sales tax revenue in 2014 was $4.22 million. The handout I just passed around, you can see in the front a list of costs estimated in 2010 for various forms of custody, monitoring, and treatment, which I think speak for themselves. Then flipping over to the back, also from the CJTF report, you'll see the funding proposed for the 10 recommendations that they make. I'm just going to skim through those recommendations and dwell on a few of them, following the order on the chart. But not going over too many numbers. Recommendation 1 is to integrate restorative justice principles throughout the justice system. The report suggests hiring mediators, but also bringing in volunteers, finding support from the university, also the County Regional Planning Commission, and throughout the funding chart, you'll see like a lot of diverse suggestions for support. Recommendation 2 is to create a comprehensive pretrial services program to avoid unnecessarily incarcerating people not convicted of a crime. The Washington Post blog ran a story this week about a report that almost 500,000 people are in jail awaiting trial in the U.S. at any given time, with a large majority posing no risk to the community. But many of these people are impoverished, and a short stint in jail can prove disastrous for them. Recommendation 3 is to address needs of persons with mental health substance use disorders, which, of course, we're talking about generally tonight. The report cites the sheriff at that time estimating that half of all people in the jail were in need of substance abuse or mental health care at any given time. And then SAMHSA, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, reports much higher national statistics. And a community resource center would be an important step towards addressing these numbers. Such a center would be a community-based mental health and substance abuse facility. Mr. Tracy, who just spoke, told the county board that the mental health board was considering steps to finance a bricks and mortar center, and I would say surely the county board should make a contribution to the operating cost of this facility. And this is one of many commitments that the board could stand to happen before 2018, when the $1 million comes on. Recommendation 4 is to expand community sanctions other than incarceration. Recommendation 5 is to establish a reentry program for people returning to the community from an Illinois state prison. Recidivism is, of course, alarmingly high and has great costs to the community in dollars as well as many other ways. Recommendation 6 is to find funding to keep these programs afloat. And recommendation 7 is to create a coordinating council for system-wide planning. Recommendation 8 is to form a racial justice task force to address the disproportionate number of African Americans in the county jail. As was mentioned earlier, African Americans make up 12.7% of the county's population as of 2012, but consistently comprise more than half of those in the jail. And the report notes that the American Bar Association has initiated pilot projects that address 4 areas in which racial disparity emerges, including pretrial detention, setting of bail, probation revocation, and access to diversion programs. Recommendation 9 is to analyze and evaluate all these programs. Recommendation 10 is to provide training and public engagement opportunities to criminal justice officials. So the total outlined in the CJTF report is between $2 and $2.25 million from diverse sources, but the $1 million in redirected public safety sales tax funds would provide a strong foundation. As we saw this spring with the MacArthur Foundation's push to address over-incarceration in municipal jails, lots of attention and resources are being directed at unjust and unsustainable policies. So in closing, I encourage everyone to read a piece in Reboot Illinois this week about the current legislative consensus in Springfield regarding incarceration reform. And before I step down, I'm just going to pass those out as well to the to the board. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Stabler. Mr. Gerard?
Good evening, members of the county board. I appreciate the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Don Gerard. I reside in Champaign. I served as mayor of the city of Champaign from 2011 to 2015. During that time, I was somewhat involved with the Access Initiative program in that traveled to Minneapolis on behalf of Champaign to represent the city of Champaign and the program. I want to back up just a little bit. When I was first elected, Senator Dick Durbin spoke to me about tipping points and how there were tipping points with issues, tipping points with whether or not you chose to serve, tipping points on how you voted once you served. For me, I often joked about running for mayor as I was playing in rock bands or working in restaurants, and everyone thought it was a joke. The tipping point for me was during the Kewanee-Carrington tragedy when I watched it unfold. The tipping point became, how are we going to move forward? Regardless of which side you stood on this issue, how are we going to move forward from this? When I was elected, I was delighted to learn more about the Access Initiative program and the City of Champaign's involvement. As I said, when we traveled to Minneapolis, the mayor of Minneapolis hosted a conference. Champaign was too small to participate. This was a conference for Seattle, for Los Angeles, for big cities, and how to deal with the problems that they had to face in the 21st century. And Mayor Ryback, with a congressman from Minnesota, invited us to attend because of this program, because this program mirrors programs that they are using and to great effect. And he said to this room, look to Champaign. They're doing it right. This is the way that we deal with 21st century challenges, with violence, with crime, with the youth in our communities. I don't know how to convince you to change your vote with regards to the transfer of funds. If you're a contrarian, I can't. That's quite simply it. If you're a bigot, I probably can't. I don't think any of you are. If you're possibly just slightly not as up to speed on what this program means and what it does, perhaps there's a chance, and I hope that there's some of the things that I say tonight will make a difference. But this is an investment. It's an investment in our community in the same manner in which I voted to give enormous tax breaks to the Chaplin family for their car dealership because it was an investment in the future of the city of Champaign. This is an investment in downstate Illinois, in Champaign County. In the same way that we approved stormwater projects, in the same manner that we dried up Christie Clinic's basement so they could conduct business, this was an investment. The taxpayers bore the burden. It was an investment in our community. We make investments, and the return on the investment is our responsibility. This is an investment. I don't have the numbers, you know the numbers, but I can tell you, the investment that you're making, that you would make in this program to have the county involved is far less than that of incarceration, far less than that of the damage it does to our public schools when people look to relocate, to bring their businesses here, to move to Champaign. This is an investment in our community. There is not one single person in the city of Champaign who will not benefit from the success of Access Initiative. This is taking young lives and getting them on the right track, whether they are black, whether they are white. We saw yesterday a horrific incident occur in Charleston. That young man was 21. If he had been gotten in a program when he was 11, if he'd been gotten on a right track, if he'd been gotten a right mentor, if he'd have had some guidance, what would it have been different? This is an investment in the city of Champaign. This is an investment in the city of Urbana. This is an investment in the county of Champaign. And I strongly urge you to tonight consider what is your tipping point on when you are going to make that decision. I hope tonight for many of you, or some of you, or at least one of you, this becomes a tipping point where you reconsider and decide that you are going to make an investment in every single member of every single citizen of Champaign County. If it's not, I sincerely hope that it's a tipping point for someone who is here in the audience, watching at home or out in the community, who's going to step up and serve and recognize that these are the type of programs and initiatives that are required for us to be the type of progressive, the type of successful, the type of thriving 21st century city, county, and the entire downstate area. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk. And again, I sincerely hope that you, if you're not well-versed, get well-versed on what Access Initiative means to the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gerard. Mr. Kiles?
Good evening. It, as always, is a pleasure to be here, whether under circumstances that I support or circumstances that I don't support. Public engagement is critical. You probably expect me to talk about the Mental Health Board budget transfer and that you should reconsider. You already know that I'm going to say that you should reconsider. That's a given. You're probably going to expect me to talk about the benefits of the Community Coalition. You've heard many presentations on the Community Coalition, so you already know the benefits of the Community Coalition. Some of you might expect me to even talk about Kewan Carrington. I've talked about Kewan Carrington, and you already know the tragedy that hit our county some time ago, affecting not just Black lives, but white lives as well. White consciences, Black consciences, Hispanic consciences, people of all nationalities, color, creed, race, economic. You expect those things from me. You know, as a city council member, I tell you a lot about, we make a lot of votes, and lots of votes, and with votes come implications. You probably have facts that I don't know about or things, reasons why you didn't support the budget amendment. But everything comes at an implication, and it's an implication of the community. We've talked about unprecedented violence in our community. The one reason why we haven't the thing that we haven't talked about is a question that these young boys, these young women have. The ones that are killing each other, the ones that are dropping out of school. The question that it sometimes is very difficult for even a person of myself to convey. The question is, can powerful Black men and women coexist in a world of powerful white men and white women? That is the question that they ask. And if you really examine that question, and I'm talking to these constituents and trying to convince them that we can exist, they point out very, very specific incidences where they don't believe that this exists. The verdict shows to them that we cannot exist without a powerful struggle. Without a powerful struggle. How many people want to go through a struggle every day for what we know is the right thing to do? That's what they're saying. That's the real elephant in the room. If you really want to know how to stop gun violence, if you want to really know how to reduce teenage pregnancy, if you really want to increase college graduates, high school graduates, 8th grade graduates, that's the question that we have to ask and be able to answer. Now, I'm not asking you to answer that question tonight before me. I'm asking you to go home, sleep over it, talk in the coffee meetings, country clubs, golf outings, Sam's, restaurants. I'm asking you to ask that question as we look at these budget transfers and the decisions that we make. If we can answer that question, can powerful black men and black women and people of all color coexist in a world of white men of power and white men and women of power? If we can answer that question, I guarantee you, we will resolve a lot of issues that plague our county. Of course, I'll conclude by saying I support your reconsideration of the budget transfer. I live in a world where we make a lot of votes. And with each vote, there is an implication. Just think about it as I leave. Thank you for allowing me to talk.
Thank you, Mr. Kiles. Ms. Avery?
Good evening. The clock is starting, so I want to talk fast. Before I get to my notes, I just want to take a moment and pause and think about the men and women and the families of those who lost their loved ones in a place of worship in Charleston, South Carolina. My thoughts and my prayers and my heart goes out to those people and those families. That could be us. That could be any one of us. This trauma and these tragedies happen too often in our communities and in America. This comes home. This can come home to roost to any one of us. No one of us or our families is safe. Let's just think about that for a moment. If you are sitting in your place of worship and you are not safe, then tell me, where are we safe? We need to all come together collectively. We have a serious problem in our community of violence and in America. And I just want to say to you that it could be any one of us. So let's just think about that for a moment and how we really do need each other, because it is all of the community of South Carolina that is coming together, black, white, from all denominations. They're grieving for these families and the tragedy that happened as a result of gun violence. But I want to move on to my remarks because the clock is ticking. And I'm going to be brief. I'm sitting here in disbelief of the action you have taken by this board last week not to approve the budget transfer that would allow the great work of Ms. Chandra Somerville and Mr. Tracy Parsons to continue from October to December. I have sat where you all are sitting, including presiding over this body. I have never in my recollection denied a budget transfer after a department budget has been approved. If that was the case, then I think I would have remembered, because I think what you would have been witnessing, we would have been witnessing, is pushback like you're witnessing today. Over the past several years under Access Initiative, there has been a concerted effort among many individuals here in this room to support a system of care that would bring help and healing to a community that has been, for the most part, overlooked and underserved, where we have documented systematic racial disparities and disproportionalities that have been served by our mental health, our juvenile justice, our educational, child welfare, and healthcare systems. African Americans represent 16% of Champaign County's population. However, and you've probably heard these statistics and might get bored about hearing them again, but I'm just going to remind you that African American youth make up approximately 45% of child welfare, 60% of foster care recipients, 75% of those committed to the Illinois Department of Juvenile Justice, 80% of admissions to the Juvenile Detention Center, 50% of youth placed on station adjustments by law enforcement, 66% of youth on probation, 80% of youth with multiple school suspensions. Not to mention that we have a growing community concern about the serious epidemic of gun violence in our community, where our youngest victim is in their teens and our oldest is barely 40. In October 14, Champaign County homicides reached levels that doubled and tripled Springfield, Danville, Peoria, and Bloomington in that same time period. With these devastating increases in gun violence, there comes an increase in trauma to these families, these youth, and our communities. Now is not the time to seek new ideals for a system of care or stoop to personal political tactics or attacks. Now is not the time to slow down or even stop the work of two individuals who have given so much of their time working on these very complex issues, where it is obvious racial and socioeconomic disparities exist. Historically, people have benefited from the hard work and suffering of our people. Now is not the time. Collectively, these good people of goodwill in this room, who have volunteered their
Ms.
sweat
Avery,
and tears
your
and
5
long
minutes
hours
is
of
up.
hard work through Community Coalition amounts to quadruple that of the $56,000 that is being requested of you in the denial of the budget transfer. Personally, I think it's a slap in the face
Ms.
of
Avery,
many good
your
folks,
5 minutes is up.
including Mr. Tracy, who has dared to fight for the rights of those underserved. I think many of us in this room would agree. I'm sorry, that now's not the time to turn this around. The NAACP's mission is to remove the barriers of racial disparities and to strive to achieve equality for all citizens. I think this was a bad move, one that sends a bad message to our communities of color. And as the president of the Champaign County NAACP, I speak for our organization and ask that you reconsider your action and vote yes to approve the transfer. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Avery. Ms. Dill?
Hello, I'm Joyce Dill. I'm here tonight. Actually, I need to tell you, I'm Joyce Dill. I live at 2311 John Drive in Urbana. I'm here to give you some information about my background and my reasons for wanting to continue on the Developmental Disability Board. I was born in Champaign, raised in Urbana. I have a sibling with a developmental disability for whom there were absolutely no services when he was a child. My parents worked very hard to develop some of the first services for people with developmental disabilities in Champaign County. They were instrumental in starting the first school for children with developmental disabilities before the public schools were required by law to provide educational services. My father was a founding member of the Champaign County Mental Health Board and served on the board for 11 years. With that background, you might understand why I became an advocate for persons with developmental disabilities early in my life. I received both my bachelor's and master's degrees in special education from the University of Illinois. I taught and supervised special education for 34 years in the public schools. It was my passion. I developed 3 alternative high schools in the area for at-risk high school students. 2 of those are in Champaign County. My husband and I are also the parents of a son who has a developmental disability. Both my brother and my son have Fragile X syndrome, something that was discovered when our child was just very young. I worked to get the Developmental Disability Board approved in this county. I'm one of those people who went to those meetings to convince people that this would be a good thing. And I intend to be sure that funds are used in the way that they really should be used. I proposed the idea for the Developmental Disability Resource Expo, which has given citizens of Champaign County a central place to go so that they can see what services may be available for them or for a loved one in our county. It has grown to be one of the best expos in the state. One tenet of good management is to have all the information before you in a timely fashion in order to make an informed decision. It requires listening skills, and it also requires asking hard questions. I will continue to do both. I also believe that considering new ideas is very important, but they should be evaluated along with the old, and we should implement the best of both. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dill. Is there anybody else in the audience who would like to speak this evening? Seeing none, I will close public participation for the evening. I will entertain a motion for the approval of the consent agenda as changed. Mr. Esri? Mr. Kibler? Any other changes to the consent agenda? All right, all those in favor, it's a roll call, correct?
Jay? Yes. Kibler?
Yes.
Maxwell? Yes. McGuire? Yes. Michaels? Yes. Mitchell? Yes. Quisenberry? Yes. Rosales?
Yes.
Schrader? Yes. Schwartz? Yes. Shore?
Yes.
Weibel? Alex? Yes. Bergson? Yes. Cowart? Yes. Esri?
Yes.
Harper?
Yes.
Harrison? Yes. Hartke? Yes. Petrie?
Yes. Thank you very much. Any board communications this evening? Mr. Alex?
In light of the recent discussions that have taken place with regard to funding for the Mental Health Board, after discussion with County Administrator Busey and Mr. Peter Tracy, we're asking the county administrator to arrange for in lieu of the regular legislative budget hearing, which we would normally have on the Mental Health Board budget, I'm going to ask that we schedule a joint meeting of the Champaign County Board and the Mental Health Board, which can serve as the legislative budget hearing and give the county board and the Mental Health Board an opportunity to come to a better understanding about their budget request. And we will announce a date for that, but it will be approximately the time that the legislative budget requests are held.
Are there any more communications? I do have a statement that I want to read into the record. I'm sorry so many of our audience members have left because I did want to share some information with them which seems not to be in the ether, and there's a lot of misinformation in the ether. It might be helpful to mention that my no vote at the Committee of the Whole meeting was a parliamentary strategy because I knew even if the budget amendment passed that evening, it would fail at the county board because there was a need for 15 votes. By failing at the Committee of the Whole gives us an opportunity to focus on shaping a sustainable community coalition because Access Initiative has always been scheduled to end on 30 September 2015 from the time of receiving the grant in 2009. This is a known. Chris Alex, Deb Busey, Peter Tracy, and I have already met for 2 hours on 15 June to discuss how best to proceed, integrating some of the ideas and work done in McHenry County with their SAMHSA grant, and after they finish their SAMHSA grant, and move things into a sustainable format with families, etc. I am very sorry to learn this evening from Mr. Tracy's presentation during public participation that he does not interpret this meeting as this meeting as a form of collaboration. We certainly felt that was the case, and as of the beginning of the conversation of how the community coalition could be stabilized and become a very strong and lasting entity within this community. Thank you. This evening on our agenda, we have the presentation by Animal Control.
I'm sorry. So I'm Stephanie Jost, Director of Champaign County Animal Control. Hello again. I'm here to present the 2013 annual report for the Animal Control Department. And I'm sorry, I have new glasses, so you have to forgive me. It's like really freaking me out.
I really understand that.
There's not a whole lot of change in the Animal Control Department from 2012 to 2013, but we'll go through each slide and go through the numbers so that you can see what is going on with us. So for 2013, we had 12,263 dogs registered and 5,118 cats. That's about on par of what we've had for the last 5 to 6 years for registrations. It kind of goes, we have a 3-year registration, so there are years where it's a little bit higher because those 3-year registrations come due during that time frame. So for 2013, we had 923 dogs and 753 cats and 40 animals, which we call other, and that's anything from chickens to guinea pigs. We had a corn snake and an iguana and all those various little critters. The majority of the animals that were brought into our facility were brought in by the animal control officers. Only 516 were brought in by citizens over the counter. So we do accept animals over the counter during business hours. When someone finds an animal, they can bring it to us, and that's what the OTC stands for. So our next slide is our breakdown of where our cats went, and only 34 cats of the 753 were returned to their owner last year. That's about the same as every year. It's a little bit down. Last year it was 6%. This year it's 5%. We did transfer out 51% of the cats to an adoption agency for adoption. So this year our numbers for adoption actually are more than our euthanasia. So this is the first year we've had that in cats. Usually we unfortunately euthanize more cats than we find homes for. So we did unfortunately euthanize 38% of the cats that came through our facility. Cats are generally euthanized for one of 2 reasons: behavioral issues or health. A lot of old cats running around. We did have 16 cats die at the shelter or arrive dead from the field. Most of those are little tiny kittens. We get a litter of kittens and a couple of them will pass away. So that's kind of a new stat. I haven't really included that in the past, but I felt it was necessary to show that we do have some animals die in our shelter. Our next slide is our breakdown of dogs, and we had 40% of our dogs were reclaimed by their owner last year. That's actually down from 54% from the year before, and unfortunately, we had to euthanize 37%. So for the dogs, it's pretty equal, return to owner versus euthanasia compared to the cats. Cats only have we don't get a lot of cats returned to their owner. We did transfer out quite a few animals to breed rescue groups, the Humane Society. I lump all those together in one group as animals transferred out. And then we did have 3 dogs die at the shelter. All of them were from old age. So our next slide is a breakdown of the cats by impounded from where they were impounded from, I'm sorry. And you can see across the board it's pretty much the same as it's been for the last 5 years. There's been a slight increase in the city of Champaign and also in the city of Urbana. Rantoul went down and the county remained about the same. And these numbers, there's no rhyme or reason as to why it goes up and why it goes down. I don't have a whole lot of guesses as to why that is. And our next slide is the dogs impounded from each village or city that we contract with. They're about the same all the way across the board. Urbana saw a slight increase. Rantoul had a slight increase. Mahomet as well, but the county and the city of Champaign remained about the same. And this slide is just another breakdown of where the animals were transferred to. I don't have an individual slide for the other animals, those iguanas, guinea pigs, those creatures, but 10 of them were transferred to other rescue groups or other shelters, and then 19 of them went to the Humane Society. This is our breakdown of dogs and cats euthanized. We euthanized 336 dogs, which is about 38%, and then 284 cats, which was 37%. 7 of the other animals had to be euthanized. Those were all roosters, so they don't have a place to go. It's really sad. I know. I know, I always hate to bring that up, but yeah, at least you know what, you know. So we did handle 2,627 calls for service last year. That's about on par with what we normally do. Again, the city of Champaign is our largest customer in calls, 1,496, followed by the unincorporated area of the county with 492. So that kind of gives you a breakdown of where we spend our time. Not me, but the officers. Our next slide is our spaying and neutering program, and we're a little bit down in the dog spay and neuter. We did receive a grant for 2014, 2015, where we can start doing non-pit bull breed dogs at a lower cost for citizens that are needing that assistance. So I expect that number to go back up into the 60 to 80 range versus the 26. We currently have a spay-neuter program for pit bulls where we only charge $25 for the service, and we will spay and neuter any pit bull within Champaign County, regardless of income of the owner, to prevent them from being impounded. It's been a very successful program, and I hope to continue doing that. It has decreased the number of pit bulls impounded. We had 5 dangerous dog investigations in 2013, and all 5 dogs were declared dangerous. In Champaign County, we have an ordinance that states a dangerous dog is any dog that approaches someone in a threatening manner on a public right-of-way, bites a human, or attacks a domestic animal. All 5 of these cases fell into that dangerous dog definition. We had no vicious dog investigations. Vicious dogs have to actually kill someone or cause serious physical injury or death. And luckily, knock on wood, we didn't have any of those, and we never will. So here we are with the revenues, and, oh, I'm sorry.
I was just thinking we were waiting to the end. Go ahead, Mr. McGuire.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know.
No, that's fine. Go right ahead.
It was about the vicious dog. And
Yes.
Wasn't there a police officer attacked?
That was in 2014, and this
So
is
it's-
2013. So, and that, I'm sorry, that also occurred in the city of Champaign. So that won't be in our statistics.
Of the 5 that were, whatever you categorized them, what happened to the animals?
In the county, they are returned to the owner under, there's things that they have to do. They have to be spayed and neutered, they have to be microchipped, they have to be muzzled whenever they're on the public right-of-way, they have to be under the supervision of someone 18 years or older, and they have to be on a leash, and we can also order them to take the animal to a behaviorist for evaluation as well.
Are there any more questions? Okay.
I'm
Con-
sorry.
Continue.
I'm going really fast because I don't want to take up too much of your time with this boring stuff. Are we on the right one? Yeah, so this is the 2013 revenues, and I know Mr. James is probably at home cursing me right now because I didn't do the totals. And I apologize. And if you see them, you can tell them I screwed it up
Would,
again.
would somebody please text Mr. James?
Yes.
Ms. Michaels is taking care of
I
it.
think I can hear him screaming right now. But the revenues were $459,641. Most of our revenue comes from the registration of the dogs and cats of Champaign County, followed closely by the contracts that we have to provide service for impound, animal control services and impound services with the different municipalities within Champaign County. And I promise next year I will have the totals on there, because the next slide doesn't have any totals at all.
You can name it the Mr. James statistics.
I know, I looked at this like 300 times this week, and I didn't notice that the totals are not even on this, on the expenditures at all, and I'm terribly sorry. But I will give you the numbers if you want to write them in. For personnel totals, it was $416,397. Commodities was $54,714, and services $77,805 for a total of $548.96, which we all know is not a secret that animal control doesn't make enough money. So that's, and I apologize. I'm terribly sorry. So my final two slides involve animal bites. We had 299 dog bites, 128 cat bites, and then 10 bites where the victim didn't name what bit them, or they weren't cooperative in providing information. And then we did have, in that other animal category, we had 2 bats bite people last year, or in 2013. So luckily they weren't rabid, so everybody's safe. But that's kind of the breakdown of the animal bites. Anytime an animal bites someone in Champaign County, it does have to be placed under quarantine with the under the supervision of the animal control. So that's how we keep track of all those stats. This is a breakdown of where those bites occurred. Again, the city of Champaign is our biggest bite customers, followed by the city of Urbana. Urbana has the unfortunately, the U of I is in their jurisdiction, so their numbers are a little skewed because we probably receive 5 to 6 bites from the vet school a week. So they probably don't really have that many bites, but it looks, on paper, it looks bad. And that's all I have. I'll be happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Mr. Kibler.
Very curious. Thank you for the presentation, by the way. Because we're changing the way that we have set aside services and cities are now opting to go into the new plan, what's the impact to the reduced fees and whatnot for individuals living in areas that choose not to go to Champaign County for their services? So in other words, can someone who lives in a municipality that doesn't send their animals to us get a reduced, be part of that program at all, or is that, are they completely excluded at that point?
Are you talking about the spay-neuter program?
Exactly.
No, I'm including everyone in Champaign County. That's how we've done it. That's what the grant money was given to us to provide services for the entire county. So I expect to continue services for all of the people of Champaign County.
Mr. Alex.
Thank you for the presentation, and again, although animal control may be losing money, we certainly recognize the work that you do with very limited resources, so thank you. Could we get an update on how we are doing with getting contracts signed under the new pricing model? We've heard that a few villages may be interested in going their own direction for animal control, but not impound. Can you let us know how we're doing on that?
Yes. Yes, I can. So far, I haven't heard back from the city of Champaign, but I'm guessing they're on board. And today I met with Urbana, and they're on board. So don't panic because they're not on this list. But so far, Ludlow, Sedoris, Royal, Longview, Foosland, Broadlands, Ivesdale, Thomasboro, Philo, and Ogden have all renewed theirs. Fisher and Rantoul have impound only. But they have both, I have received both of their.
And Rantoul always was impound only, right?
We actually had a service contract with them to fill in when their animal control officer was on vacation, but they have opted not to go that route.
And that leaves out St. Joe,
St. Joe,
Mahomet, Savoy.
Savoy, Urbana, Champaign. I haven't heard from Tolono and Pasodum.
So none of those other than Rantoul, Rantoul and Fisher have both said no
To service only.
to service, but no one has, have any of those other villages said they're not going to participate, or are we still waiting to hear from
We're
them?
still waiting to hear
Okay,
from them.
thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Thank you so much for the report. I appreciate it, especially the one snake and two bats. Oh, where are my glasses, right? Okay, let's move to standing committees. County facilities, you have the summary of action taken on the 26th of May and the 2nd of June in your packet. And next to environment and land use, again, there's the summary of action on the 4th of June. And then, Mr. Esri, will you please handle the other three items?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We'll start with the first, 11B1. I move adoption of resolution number 9212, adopting authority to prevent water pollution caused by erosion and sedimentation as deferred from the May meeting.
Thank you very much, Mr. Esri. A second, please. Ms. Michaels? All right. Open for discussion and questions. Mr. Esri?
Just a few points on this. This resolution only adopts authority to control water pollution caused by erosion and sedimentation. This resolution does not obligate this board to do anything in particular about water pollution caused by erosion and sedimentation. The authority to control water pollution caused by erosion and sedimentation is necessary to adapt the stormwater management and erosion control ordinance, which is necessary to meet the requirements of the MS4 permit with the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency. The only alternative to not adopting this authority is to enter into an agreement directly with the IEPA. We do have Mr. Hall here tonight if we have questions. And another note, there's 15 affirmative votes needed for this, and as such, I would request a roll call.
It has to be roll call. Yes. Are there any questions for Mr. Hall, since he has spent over an hour with us so far this evening? Mr. Jay?
Yes, my concern is this going to obviously be another duty for your office to oversee?
Yes, it is, Mr. Jay. The primary, or the really important thing, once we get this adopted, is we'll have to visit the sites that get the LDEC permits, the land disturbance permits in our MS4 area. The MS4 area is 1% of our jurisdiction. We'll have to visit any site that gets one of those permits every week that the project is underway. Now, on the basis of the past few years, that's 5 permits a year we'll have to inspect every week. I think we can do that with no new staff. I'll let you know if we're not. I'd rather tell you than have the EPA tell you. So we'll see how that goes, but I think we can do it. 2 of our staff are taking training this year, so they'll know what to do in those inspections, and everybody is offered to take training as soon as we can afford it. So everybody in the department is pitching together to get this done.
A follow-up, if I may, then, I'm not sure about the classifications you're talking about. I assume this is all in areas that's under construction of some kind.
Well, within our MS4 area, which is that 1% of our jurisdiction, even just regrading with no construction will require a permit and will require the erosion and sedimentation controls. So this is actually not focused just on construction, it's focused on land disturbance.
If I was grading my lane at the farm, am I going to fall under this?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
So Mr. J is now a happy camper, right? All right. Mr. Alex and then Mr. Maxwell.
A question for Mr. Hall and then for Mr. Esri. The MS4 area, that's basically the Champaign-Urbana metropolitan area minus what's actually in Champaign-Urbana? Is that, well, or that's what falls under your jurisdiction?
It's not all of our jurisdiction within that ETJ. It's actually probably less than half. And it changes at the end, every time there's a census, for some reason, the outline of that area changes.
But this doesn't obligate you to do anything in the cities of Champaign or Urbana. They deal with this on their own?
Yes, they're far ahead of us. They've been dealing with this since 2007.
Thank you. And then, Mr. Esri, I just wanted to confirm that this is something that the Environment and Land Use Committee is supportive of, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Maxwell.
My understanding, it's weekly and also after every half-inch rain, so you'd be busy lately.
Yes, yes, we would.
Mr. Weibel.
John, looking at the map, I assume the green blob down south of Old Church Road, is that the U of I airport? Here. Right there. Can you answer the microphone?
Yes, that's the U of I airport.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? All right, Mr. Hall, thank you so much. As Mr. Esri announced, it is 15 votes and roll call, please.
Jay? Yes. Kibler?
Yes.
Maxwell? Yes. McGuire? Yes. Michaels? Yes. Mitchell? Yes. Quisenberry?
Yes.
Rosales?
Yes.
Schrader? Yes. Schwartz? Yes. Shore? Yes. Weibel? Yes. Alex? Yes. Bergson? Yes. Coert? Yes. Esri? Yes. Harper? Yes. Harrison? Yes. Hartke? Yes. Petrie?
Yes. It was a unanimous vote. Thank you very much. Mr. Esri.
Moving on to 11B2, I move adoption of ordinance number 962, amending the zoning ordinance and amending the stormwater management policy, case 769-AT-13, as deferred from the May meeting.
Is there a second to Mr. Esri's motion? Mr. Harper, thank you very much. Mr. Esri, do you want to explain how these all interlock? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I can add a few notes, I guess, to that. This will amend the Champaign County zoning ordinance and amend the Champaign County stormwater management policy by changing the name to the Stormwater Management and Erosion Control Ordinance, and adds the Stormwater Management and Erosion Control Ordinance erosion and sedimentation controls necessary to meet the requirements of the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, if the NPDES, if there's not enough acronyms for you, Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System, that's the MS4, Stormwater Discharge Permit with the Illinois IEPA, or Illinois EPA, which is the IEPA, and makes other changes and adds other requirements related to erosion and sedimentation control as described in the legal advertisement. How they do kind of tie together our previous one, by adopting the authority, we can now go ahead with these ordinances if they get adopted. This one just needs a simple majority. Mr. Hall would like to have a roll call, so I will request that for documentation purposes. And most of the changes in this ordinance will only affect the Champaign County MS4 jurisdictional area, which is part of the Champaign-Urbana urbanized area. And those changes are the minimum changes necessary to meet the requirements of the MS4 permit with the IEPA. Some of the changes in this ordinance will apply to the entire unincorporated area, and the zoning administrator, Mr. Hall, is still here if we have questions. And the city of Urbana, it was thought they may protest this, but they did not. So we're good to go with only 12 votes.
Thank you for the detailed explanation, Mr. Weibel.
Second that call for a roll call.
All right, thank you. Mr. Were you going to second? All right. Are there any other questions for Mr. Hall while he's in the room? All right. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Jay?
Maybe. Oh, yes.
Kibler?
Yes.
Maxwell? Yes. McGuire?
Yes.
Michaels? Yes. Mitchell?
Yes.
Quisenberry?
Yes.
Rosales?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Schwartz? Shore? Weibel? Alex?
Yes.
Bergson? Coert? Esri?
Yes.
Harper?
Yes.
Harrison? Hartke? Petrie?
I was talking with Mr. Quisenberry, yes. The vote is unanimous. Thank you very much. Mr. Esri, your last item.
Yes, 11B3, I move adoption of ordinance number 963, amending the stormwater management and erosion control ordinance, case 773-AT-14, again is deferred from the May meeting.
Thank you very much. A second, please. Ms. Bergson, please go right ahead.
Thank you. Sorry, didn't mean to assume. This ordinance adds a requirement for a grading permit and a demolition permit for grading or demolition that is not related to any proposed construction and that disturbs 1 acre or more of land, or that disturbs less than 1 acre if part of a larger common plan of development in which disturbance of 1 acre or more will occur. And it also adds fees for the grading and demolition permits and other requirements related to grading and demolition permits as described in the legal advertisement. Adoption of this amendment will ensure that the protections provided to adjacent landowners by the proposed optional minimum erosion control standards in related case 769-AT-13, which we just basically adopted the ordinance for, will also apply when there is only grading or demolition not related to other construction. A minimal $50 fee is added for either a grading or a demolition permit, but that fee is waived if there has been an application made to the IEPA for an ILR 10 construction stormwater permit. And again, we only need 12 affirmative votes, but I know Mr. Hall would like to see a roll call, so I will request a roll call.
Is there a second for the roll call, please? Mr. Shore. All right, any questions? Again, Mr. Hall is still in the room. Mr. Jay.
Well, I'm still worried about my lane. We're talking about grading again. I got a lane that's really long. It's probably 1.25 miles.
It's exempted.
It's exempted. Is all lanes in agriculture areas exempt?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, all ag is exempt, if I'm not.
All right, we now have one very happy customer in the room. Oh, 2? Okay, 2. All right, I'm going for 3 now before we have the vote. Are there any other questions for Mr. Hall? Okay, roll call, clerk, thank you.
Jay? Kibler?
Yes.
Maxwell? McGuire? Michaels? Mitchell? Quisenberry?
Yes.
Rosales?
Yes.
Schrader? Schwartz? Shore?
Yes.
Weibel? Alex? Bergson? Coert? Esri?
Yes.
Harper? Harrison? Hartke? Petrie?
Yes, another unanimous vote. You're very successful this evening, Mr.
Thank you.
Esri. 3
Includes our
winners.
elect business.
Thank you. Highway and Transportation just has a summary of action taken on the 5th of June. And now moving to areas of responsibility, again, a summary action taken at the 9 June Committee of the Whole meeting. And now moving to Justice and Social Service, Ms. Bergson.
Adoption of ordinance number 9246, authorizing for memorandum of understanding with the Regional Planning Commission for administration of Quarter Cent for Public Safety funding to support juvenile justice programs for delinquency prevention, intervention, and diversion programming.
Is there a second, please? Mr. Maxwell. Any questions on this motion? All right, we're ready for the vote. All of those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
The vote passes. Put my glasses on. All right, next is finance. Oh, okay.
I believe Mr. Alex stepped out of the room.
All
If
right,
you don't
thank
mind,
you.
Madam Chair. As assistant, I'll start. In finance, we have the adoption of resolution number 9247, authorizing payment of claims authorization.
Thank you, Mr. Quisenberry, for a second. Are there any questions on this motion? There's Mr. Alex. We're about to vote on your first item.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Do you have any comments you want to share with the body?
No.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Unanimous vote. Item number 2, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I apologize, I did not think that you would get through any items while I was out of the room. It was not my intent to skip the vote. I would move adoption of resolution number 9248, authorizing purchases not following the purchasing policy.
A second from Mr. Esri. Any questions for Mr. Alex? All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. One no. All right, this passes. Next comes policy. 2 items were pulled from the consent agenda. They do fall under policy, so Mr. Quisenberry.
Yes, Madam Chairman, policy recommends adoption of Resolution 9267, appointing Joyce Dill to the Champaign County Developmental Disabilities Board for a term of July 1st, 2015 through June 30th, 2018, and I so move.
Second from Mr. Kibler. Yes, Mr. Harkey.
Yeah, I would like to move to suspend the rules to allow Mr. Tracy to address us regarding these appointments.
The rules, all right. Is there a second for that? Mr. Shore, all right. All those in favor of suspending the rules signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Aye. Okay.
Division.
Point of order. I don't think you need to suspend the rules. I think the chair can decide on your own whether you want to ask somebody to discuss it or not. You don't need to suspend the rules. It's up to the chair in this case.
Okay, thank you for that correction. And I don't think that, I think that's an uncomfortable situation. Mr. Tracy is an employee of the board, so that does not seem to be appropriate. Mr. Schrader.
Madam Chair, just before I start, is this for clarification? We're talking about this appointment, correct? The vote on this appointment.
This vote is a vote on the appointment for Joyce Dill.
Thank you. I'm going to first start out with, I was on this board when we voted to start the disability board, and I voted in favor of it. And we've had great response from the public and those who are dedicated and interested in this board. We've had super response. We've had lots and lots of requests to be on this board. And I'm glad we expanded it by 2 members here recently, and I supported that. And I have up on my computer, I was looking at the minutes were up for the May meeting for the Disabilities Board. And It seems like you can go back, and there's great public participation in those boards. And I really, really want to encourage public participation. I think we can all learn from that, definitely. But 12 years being on this board, I've never before have seen this happen. And in front of me, for those who are watching or listening or whatever way they're communicating, the board had a letter placed in front of us from Mr. Tracy, and it's dated June 18th. And it's requesting that we reconsider the chair appointments for the Disabilities Board. I've never had anybody administrative level ask for this to ever happen. I think it is way out of line. And I'm not sure if it's a retribution for something else that happened or what it is, but this is way out of line. If you don't think the public body has the ability to make the appointments, and I'm sorry, but I've never seen this before, this kind of influence try to change and try to do this. Everybody on that board and everybody in the future will be on that board brings whatever backgrounds, education, personal experiences to any kind of our commissions, any of our commissions. And to have this happen is just beyond the pale. I hope to never see this again. So I'll support this appointment. I know it's probably some of the things I discussed is out of line, but since this was brought up and I wanted the public to know that this was placed in front of us, the fact that I got 2 copies of all this. Oh, you've got your own copy, Jim. So anyway, I will support both the appointments. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Schrader. Mr. Maxwell.
I'm going to concur with what Mr. Schrader said. I take it very seriously that the legislature gave this county board the right to concur in the chair's appointment to these boards. And I take that very seriously. It is totally inappropriate for an administrator to come before us and try to influence the decision of who sits on their boards. Nobody gets to do that. This is the chairman of this county board's prerogative to make that appointment, and we can either vote for it or against it. But I think it's totally inappropriate for even Mr. Tracy to ask for permission to speak. He had his chance at 5 minutes and public participation, and I feel like it's inappropriate for him to address the board at this time. Thank you.
Mr. McGuire.
I guess I would agree with what they're talking about, but I'm a little confused about why. I guess I'm happy that we had the opportunity to hear from the people that we're bringing in front of the board, because it sounds like they have great experience and knowledge from being on the board. So it was good. Mr. Carter would probably be happy that they came and spoke to this issue. That we could hear them talk. Right now, we have huge budget issues in front of this county board. I think all the votes that I've tried to make that impact the county, I'm trying to make sure we work effectively and efficiently. We may lose positions in this county as the budget changes this year, but I want good, experienced, budget knowledge people working in this county and on these boards. And these 2 people that have been brought forward by the chairman seem to be those people. And why our board put these people on the consent agenda, and now they've pulled them all of a sudden to be voted on again, it kind of confuses me. What is the issue? Why are we doing this vote again? But I appreciate it, and I'm going to support them, of course, and I hope we move forward, because who are we going to find? It sounds like the other people might be experienced and knowledgeable, but are they the best we could find? Are they better than what we have on the agenda to to vote for? And are other people, are there other people that chairman can find that will be just as talented and experienced?
Mr. Quisenberry. Oh, well, he's spoken. Okay. All right, Mr. Harkey.
Thank you. I understand Mr. Schrader's concerns, but I kind of take the opposite view that someone with the experience and the time served that Mr. Tracy has, when they're concerned enough to be this vocal about the issue, that's what raises concern with me. I'll also add that I have had more contact from constituents on this issue than anything save the jail issue itself. I think that the concern comes not from the ability to manage a budget. I think anybody with a little knowledge of basic math can learn to manage a budget that's set for them. I also think that nobody's asking the Developmental or Mental Health Board to spend money that they don't have. The question is, what are the priorities that the Mental Health Board and the Developmental Disabilities Board want to spend that money on? Let me start by saying I'm not a scientist, but I'm willing to listen to them. And most of the people that are educated in the modern approach to dealing with developmental disabilities that have spoken to me on this issue look at this as a difference between integration and segregation. Are we going to integrate people with developmental disabilities into the community and provide them opportunities to the same opportunities other folks have, or are we going to segregate them through different forms of education, different jobs, and keep them in a different place? I think not only is there a philosophical argument to be made there about what's changing among the education, but there is a constitutional argument to be made about whether it is constitutional to segregate people based on their disabilities. These are the concerns that have been brought to me, not just by Mr. Tracy, but by other members of the community whom I have a lot of respect for their past work and their educations involving these issues. And that's why I wanted it to be brought before this board. The reason that I did vote in committee for this appointment and am now going to be changing my vote is because I've listened to the arguments of my constituents, and they have made the case to me that there could have been some better choices for this board.
All right, Mr. Quisenberry.
Now I'll talk.
All right.
I want to say two quick things. First, I think it's important with the consent agenda to recognize that any one person on this board saying they don't want it to be on consent can say, please take it off. That's important. That's an important thing that we have. We can't have a consent agenda unless we have that understanding that when someone wants discussion, it can be pulled off. I have had some communication from constituents, not quite the volume Mr. Hartke has. What I have found is that I've heard from individuals who are promoting the idea of changing of the guard, alternative personnel, but I have not received any kind of complaints about the individuals that we approved in committee or any kind of promotion or reasons why one of the three that we didn't choose would be the one to replace one or more that we would reject. So I intend to support our committee choice. I really appreciate the folks coming out to talk to us about it. I would kind of wish they would have come to our committee. That would have been a little bit better, but that can't be changed. So I intend to follow my previous vote.
Mr. Shore? Oh, yes, Mr. Shore and then Mr. Schrader.
I'll just echo Mr. Quisenberry. I very much understand the philosophical and legal issues coming out of, why, we need to be concerned about, integration versus segregation of the individuals with developmental disabilities. But, the bottom line is, we're advising consent, and I haven't heard a compelling reason why we should not consent.
Mr. Schrader.
Just to go back to one of the things Mr. Quisenberry said, I don't know if he thought I insinuated it or somebody else did, but items can be pulled off consent agendas, that's fine. I think that they should be if there's enough discussion to be had, or for any reason if you want to bring them off. And I would agree with that statement. So I just want a point of clarification.
I take every opportunity to say that to keep Patsy off my back.
Understood.
Okay, other comments? All right, I would like a roll call. Is there a second for it? Thank you very much, Mr. Schrader. Will the clerk call the roll, please?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, can we clarify which appointment we were voting on? This is the appointment of Ms. Dill, is that correct?
Yes,
Thank
that
you.
is. It's a good clarification, just so everybody knows where we are, all right?
Jay? Yes. Kibler?
Yes.
Maxwell? Yes. McGuire? Yes. Michaels? Yes. Mitchell? Yes. Quisenberry?
Yes.
Rosales?
Yes.
Schrader? Yes. Schwartz? Yes. Shore? Yes. Weibel? Yes. Alex? Yes. Bergson? Yes. Cowart? Yes. Esri?
Yes.
Harper? Yes. Harrison? Hartke?
No.
Petrie?
Yes, it passes with one no vote. The second item, Mr. Quisenberry?
Yes. Policy recommends adoption of Resolution 9268, appointing Michael Smith to the Champaign County Developmental Disabilities Board for a term running from July 1st, 2015 through June 30th, 2018, and I so move.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kibler. Any discussion and comments on this nomination? Thank you, Mr. Esri. A second for the roll call, please. Mr. McGuire. All right, I missed the other two of you. Roll call, clerk, please.
Jay?
Yes.
Kibler? Yes. Maxwell?
Yes.
McGuire? Yes. Michaels? Yes. Mitchell? Yes. Quisenberry?
Yes.
Rosales?
Yes.
Schrader? Yes. Schwartz? Yes. Shore? Yes. Weibel? Yes. Alex? Yes. Bergson? Yes. Cowart? Yes. Esri?
Yes.
Harper? Yes. Harrison? Yes. Hartke?
No.
Petrie?
Yes, it passes 18-2, and thank you very much, Mr. Quisenberry. We're now moving to new business, which we can do because Mr. Weibel asked for the rules to be suspended at the beginning of the meeting. Mr. Alex, will you take the finance items on our packet and then the finance items on the addenda, please?
I will, Madam Chair. I move adoption of resolution number 9249, authorizing intergovernmental agreements for animal control services and impoundment services with the village of Sedoris.
Are there any questions for Mr. Alex? All right, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. All right, item 2.
Thank you. I move adoption of resolution number 9250, authorizing budget amendment 15-27, accepting and spending a $200 donation from AFSCME to defray costs for the county health fair. And I would note that this requires a roll call and 15 votes.
A second, Mr. McGuire, thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Alex? Yes, Mr. Alex.
I'd like to express my thanks to AFSCME for the contribution on behalf of the Labor and Management Health Insurance Committee.
Absolutely. Any other comments? It's a roll call. Would the clerk please call that?
Jay?
Yes.
Kibler?
Yes.
Maxwell? Yes. McGuire? Yes. Michaels? Mitchell? Yes. Quisenberry?
Yes.
Rosales?
Yes.
Schrader? Yes. Schwartz? Yes. Shore? Yes. Weibel? Yes. Alex? Yes. Bergson? Yes. Cowart? Yes. Esri?
Yes.
Harper? Yes. Harrison? Yes. Hartke? Yes. Petrie?
Yes, a unanimous vote. Please move now, grab your addenda, and the third item, Mr. Alex.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move adoption of resolution number 9286, approving a contract with Pepsi-Cola for food and beverage vending machine services.
I'm sorry, I missed this. Mr. Quisenberry, a second. Any questions for either Mr. Alex or Ms. Busey on this contract? Mr. Alex.
Since this is coming straight to the board, I'd like Ms. Busey to give us an idea of how we got here.
And we also want to know why there's no Coca-Cola. Ms. Harrison wants to know.
Actually, there is Coca-Cola, otherwise they wouldn't have been able to respond to the RFP. We issued an RFP for vending services in April. There was one respondent, Pepsi Cola. So we did, however, negotiate some of the terms with them. We have been in contract with them for 4 years for all of our vending machines and services. And the current contract had a commission rate of 20% for the county. This contract came to us with 15% for food and a fixed rate that was less than that for beverages. So we did negotiate. Their explanation is that the cost of these commodities has gone up, and yet the cost that is charged in the vending machines has remained fairly stable, and that's kind of a competitive thing across the board. So the actual, we did negotiate, though, that we needed the 15% on all the products, both beverages and food. So that is what you have before you this evening.
Any questions for either Mr. Alex or Ms. Busey and Mr. J?
Miss Busey, where's the Coke? Diet Coke?
There is Coke in the machines, in some of the machines. If there is not Coke in one of the machines here, we can ask for it.
Diet Coke.
Diet Coke, I will ask for it.
Thank you.
There is one machine at the satellite jail that has nothing in it but Diet Mountain Dew.
We deal with $3+ million budgets for the Developmental Disabilities Board, and you want Diet Coke. Mr. Weibel.
Ms. Busey, I want Pepsi with sugar, not fructose. I like the flavor better.
Okay, I can tell. We've been here almost 2 hours. Mr. Schrader.
Yeah, as a corn grower, I take umbrance from that. Thank you very much. I can't grow sugar cane, Mr. Weibel. I'd like to, and I like to grow high-protein wheat, but I can't either. So.
Okay, we're probably...
Anyway,
yes, Mr. Schrader.
Ms. Busey, I have a question for Ms. Busey. In the past, we used to have questionnaires to the employees out here, what they'd like to see in the vending machines. Did you do this for this RFP? And can we change things in the vending machines if we request?
Yes, we can change product in the vending machines based on our requests. We had not heard any requests from any of the employees, and we discussed it with department heads, so we did not do a survey this time because we were on a very short time frame. This contract ended, and we missed the fact that the contract had ended. If we had more than one response, we would have had a committee of employees to review and evaluate the responses, but because we only had one, we really didn't have a reason to convene such a committee.
Are you happy now? Mr. Kibler.
Just curious on budget implications. I assume this is like a whopping $10, but I figured I'd ask.
The revenue for this contract has been about $10,000 a year and is only budgeted at $7,500 this year, so I don't think there will be a negative impact. And we use the money primarily for the employee recognition event.
That's an excellent dedication of those funds. Back to serious business. Are there any more questions for either person? All right. All those in favor of this humorous motion, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Good. Mr. Alex, number 4.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move adoption of resolution number 9284, authorizing intergovernmental agreements for animal control services and animal impound services with the village of Thomasboro.
Okay. Oh, Ms. Michael seconded it. All right. Any questions since we've been through a lot of these contracts already? All right. Ready for the question? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Excellent. Another unanimous vote. The 5th item, please.
Thank you. Moving all the way to the north, I move adoption of resolution number 9285, authorizing intergovernmental agreements for animal control services and impoundment services with the village of Ludlow.
All right, a second, please. Ms. Michaels again. We'll give her 2 for any questions. Ready for the question? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Another unanimous vote. Thank you very much, Mr. Alex. Mr. Maxwell, you have 2 items.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd recommend the adoption of Resolution 9287, approving the contract with Bailey Edwards for facility condition assessment documentation and capital planning study for the county of Champaign.
Second on that, please. Ms. Bergson, questions either for Mr. Maxwell or Ms. Busey on this contract?
Ma'am,
Oh, Mr. Maxwell, yes.
if I may comment, I would like to thank Ms. Busey and Dana Brenner for the hard work that they put in negotiating this contract. I think they came up with a workable contract, and it's within our means to fund. So again, I think we owe them a round of thanks.
Mr. Alex?
Mr. Maxwell, I wanted to confirm this contract does include the work related to studying how to comply with the ADA requirements that were recently negotiated with the county.
That's correct. There's a separate item in there in the contract itself in this addendum, but it's around $90,000. That will be expended over a period of time, some as long as 3 years hence. So the first 6 months should stay within the amount of money that we have available, and then we'll be able to budget for the balance of the ADA work as we go along in the coming fiscal years.
Any other questions? I do want to congratulate the Facilities Committee. You've moved, the whole committee has moved things along admirably in the past 6 months, and it's a task, again, a message to Mr. James, who was facility chair and nagged at us forever that we should be doing all of these things. And so it's a continuation of his work and that previous Facilities Committee. Ms. Busey.
I would like to point out to the board that the facilities condition assessment will be paid for out of the capital asset replacement fund. We will be bringing a budget amendment to you in July that is revenue neutral for approximately $120,000. Normally, I would have had that here tonight for your approval at the same time you're approving the contract, but we didn't get these final numbers in time to get that done and on your agenda within the requirements of the Open Meetings Act. So that will be coming for you in July.
Thank you. Is everybody ready for a vote? All right, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Unanimous vote. Your second item, Mr. Maxwell.
The second item is approval of a release of bid ITB 2015-006 for concrete wall panel rehabilitation for the Satellite Jail, Juvenile Detention Center, and highway facility. I'd like to mention that since we're not going to have a facility committee meeting in July, and since we would like to expedite the construction of this job for the summer, the reason we're bringing it to you tonight for this authorization is so that we can go ahead and release this bid at this time, although the plans and specifications are not quite ready to go, but they will be shortly.
All right, Mr. Esri, are there questions either for Mr. Maxwell or Ms. Busey on this? Yes, Mr. Alex.
Mr. Maxwell, I wanted to clarify, I talked to Ms. Busey about this earlier, but I wanted to make sure we're on the same page. My understanding is that ERA is assisting in writing these bid documents,
That's correct.
and that the bid will only cover the items that were listed in their May memo as priority 1, which is sealing the cracks and joints,
I believe that's correct.
and that the estimated amount for that would be $384,000, which is in the facilities budget for this year for this work. Is that correct?
I'll have to ask Ms. Busey to confirm that.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous vote. Moving on to other business. Any members have other business they'd like to bring up? Then we're ready for a motion to adjourn. Mr. Kibler, a second. Thank you, Mr. Esri. Have a good evening and a long weekend.